Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my first episode of Moms Who Resell. I am so excited to start this series. Uh, it's going to be the first one, obviously. This is the first episode. So, without a guest, I was kind of thinking the best way to handle this first episode and doing it more introductory style. So, tell you all how the show is going to be run, the types of questions, and the types of guests that I plan on having, and just let everybody know what the show is about. So, really, I just want to dive right in. Let me know in the chat if you're here. I want to give a few minutes for everybody to get on. So, I think there is like a tiny bit of a delay between StreamYard and when you actually respond. So, I definitely want to give a moment so that you can say your comments. Let me know if you're watching, and I will get started here in just a moment. I was actually just watching the Thriftopotamus. She used to be called Attic Addicts, and I had to just leave that abruptly so I can come over here. But if you don't follow her, you've got to. She is an absolute hoot, and she's actually going to be on the show here in the next few weeks, so you'll all get to meet her. But all right, so let's see. If you're here, just go ahead and comment that you're here. Give me a hi. Let me know where you're joining from. Um, and I will get started. Let's see. Comments. All right, we got a quiet crowd tonight. All right. Hi. That would be my husband. Hello, babe. Dave, welcome. Father-in-law, keeping it in the family. Thank you so much for coming, you guys. All right. So, the whole idea of this show is just to be real and meet with other reselling moms and just create that community. So, um, I kind of have like an interview style idea for how I'm going to run the show with the different set of questions, but I want to keep it totally unscripted and impromptu depending on who's with me live. If anyone's on that has questions, you get a comment that you want to say during the show, I'm totally fine going off topic and just talking off topic. That's what this is about. So, while it's definitely not scripted, I do have some questions that I wanted to answer. This is just kind of based on the questions that I get on the daily, people asking me when they find out what I do, when they know what I do. These are the types of questions that I get. So I figured no time better than the first episode to tell you all about it. So starters, I'm going to start with my intro. My name is Jennifer. I've been reselling now for I want to say 4 years. I think it was the end of 2018 that I started this. And I have loved it ever since I got started. It's the funniest story. I started watching a video from Gary Vee, and it was called Trash Talk. So, Gary, who's a very successful entrepreneur, if you don't follow him, I mean, he's super, super successful. So, he decided to do a little experiment and do these garage sales while showing people how you can make extra money. So he goes around his area. He's telling you, okay, you're going to spend about a few hours, 3, 4 hours of your day. You're going to spend about 20 bucks in gas. But here's the potential. So he would go to these sales and he would buy mugs. That was his favorite thing, was mug life. And he would buy these mugs, pay a quarter, 50 cents. I mean, mugs at garage sales are practically free. And then flip them online for a profit. He was making maybe $10, $15 on a mug. But he brought up this mindset that to a lot of people, and especially in today's times, an extra 50 bucks, 100 bucks a month could change your life. That could be your groceries for the month. That could be your gas for the month. Like 100 bucks extra could seriously change people's lives. So I'm like, oh, all right, this could be fun. So I thought, all right, maybe just some extra spending money. And I started following the things he was getting, the mugs. Yeah, I started with mugs. I started with things that I knew. I knew electronics. I know electronics. I've always loved electronics since I was little. I've just always loved them. I've always been techie. So, um, naturally, just starting in that, starting in video games, starting in VCR, starting in camcorders, things that I already like. So starting in things that I like made it not work. It's not work when you like it. Like it's that simple. So hey Jerry, thank you for coming. That's my sister. Joining from your house. Thank you. All right. So starting with things that you already know and you already like, it makes it where it's just fun and you already know the item. So it's going to be very easy for you to test these items because you already know it. So um, that was kind of how I got started, just getting the idea of what stuff started to sell, what stuff wasn't going to sell, the types of items that I bought 4 years ago. Probably 80% of those items I wouldn't buy again today. Early on, I had done the Goodwill bins. I don't recommend that for me. I don't have the patience. We don't have very many bins here. So the one that I go to was always swamped with other resellers, completely swamped with resellers. So it was a different environment. It was very stressful to say the least. Everybody's just attacking these bins. I tried to go in during COVID times when they were restricting how many people could go up to each bin. That was super stressful. So bins were not my thing, but it's a great way to get a lot of items for very cheap in a very short period of time. But anything that I bought back then, I'm like just thinking about it, a bunch of it I wouldn't buy again. Very small profits, very small profit margins. But you live and learn. And that's where a lot of people ask me, like, how do you know what to buy? How do you know what to buy? 4 years of experience. I didn't know what to buy 4 years ago. I bought really stupid stuff 4 years ago. Like, I'm still selling stuff today that I bought 4 years ago. And it just makes me laugh. Like, I've been holding on to this one thing, like this Squirt stuffed animal. It was Squirt from Finding Nemo or Finding Dory, probably Finding Nemo. And he squeezed his belly and he talked, and I'm like, oh, surely this was worth money. It's a Disney plush. Well, yeah, it was worth about $15, but it took me 4 years to sell them. Just very silly things that I picked up early on, and I wouldn't pick them up again. So all right, let's check the comments. Anyone else here? All right. Next question I get a lot, and something that I was kind of gearing this show around is the obstacles of being a mom and being a reseller. That goes into being a mom and being a businesswoman, being a mom and working full time, being a mom and running a household. Like there's always going to be so many other things under that mom title. And with the reseller, the struggles that I've had to overcome is same as a lot of others, and it's that time management. So I have one daughter that is in school. So she's at school from 8 to 3. And then my son is at daycare from about that same hour, 8 to 3, 8 to 4. So I get that daytime free, and that's when I'm outsourcing. That's when I'm going to thrift stores all over town. That's when I'm going to do some listing. That's when I'm working outside of the home for a lot of the reasons because I don't have to be home. I can go out and get my errands without having to tote around my children. So that's what I use that time for. But then come the evening is when I want to list. I want to get ready to start packing. I want to do more of the business that's being done in the household. And that's definitely a struggle with 2 young kids at home. So I'm definitely anxious to hear how other people do it. I try to do some after they go to bed, but let's face it, there's reality. They don't always go to bed at the time that I want them to. So I don't want to start working when it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted. So um, it's just trying to find that balance between being a mom and working as well from home. Because I think working outside the home has benefits of when you leave that office, you leave that office. It's done. You see it tomorrow. But when you work at home, my office is 10 steps away. It's really hard to leave your office when it's right there. Because then you tell yourself, okay, I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to go list a couple things. I'm going to go draft a couple things, take a few pictures, like test something. Like it's right there. So it's easy to get distracted, and very ADHD mindset is very easy for me to bounce all over and back and forth. Not always the most efficient, but it's just how my brain works. All right, if you're here, feel free to throw some questions in the comments. Anything that you want to know. Really, I'm here to answer it. So that's what this show is about. All right, let's get on to the next question. Let's see, my favorite reseller tip. I wish everybody would know. Okay, so this one falls I've got a few of them. First one is it's okay to break the rules. So there are always rules in reselling on percentages of how you should buy it, when you should buy it, the models you should buy, the ones you shouldn't buy. Okay, buy it if it has a remote, don't buy it if it doesn't. There are always exceptions to every rule. So I think if you're going into this with a checklist of making sure you check mark each box before you buy an item, you're not going to be successful. You have to think outside that box and see, okay, maybe this item is going to be a little slower to sell, slow tail or long tail they call it, because maybe there's less sold than you want to be sold, but you're able to pick it up for $1. Like, okay, I'll sit on it for an extra 6 months. I paid $1 for it. But because it didn't fit in my perfect mold of sell through rates and all of that, I wouldn't want to leave $1 item on the table just because of that. Let's see. Another tip. I have these written down here. You think I'd have these memorized? They're my own tips. Okay, so the other great tip I love is when in doubt, part it out. This comes in handy with blenders, vacuums. Okay, I think those are the two most common. Vacuum parts usually sell for more than a vacuum hole. It's also a lot easier to ship vacuum parts than it is to ship a vacuum hole. So I part out vacuums all the time. The ones that are the cordless ones, like the stick cordless vacuums, like a Dyson, but the different brands, Shark, Dyson, um, Tinco. There's a bunch of different brands of them. So when you part them out and you sell the brush head, you sell the all the accessories, you sell the charger, you're going to make more than if you sold that vacuum whole as either marketplace or trying to ship it. So I love to part it out. That also works great for blenders. If you got a blender, you've got one of those Margaritaville blenders. The margarita blenders, if you find those, the mugs are probably worth more than the whole machine. Not the mugs, the actual canisters. The blender canisters are worth more than the actual blender. So again, just looking at the different parts of something, you might make more money parting it out than keeping it whole. All right, then another tip I've got is to make sure when you buy it low enough that you will make money. So basically, what I mean is make sure that you're buying your items at the right price. When I mentioned buying something for $1 or two, there's really no risk because if you get home and it doesn't work, if it's an electronic, usually it'll still sell for parts. So with anything that you're buying, the biggest thing is to still buy it right and not to get desperate. Because whenever I found myself getting desperate, when I'm very low on inventory, sales are slow, I've got to find something to flip, and I start getting into that desperate mindset, it always bites me. And when that item finally sells, I'm like, I paid $30 for that? Why would I pay $30 for that? It just sold for 45. Like that was a long time to hold for something to make maybe a $10 profit. So make sure that you're buying it right in the first time, in the first place, because then when things don't work, you can uh, you can definitely still flip it. Let's see, another tip. Let's go the free box. The free box. Okay, I reference this a lot on my YouTube channel. A lot of times when you get up to a yard sale or a garage sale, they'll have a box at the end of the driveway. They'll just labeled free. Usually there's like Tupperware lids, one random shoe, um, scraps of fabric. Like it's usually junk. Like why did they even put that out here? Who's gonna want that? But there's a lot of times that I've found some really good stuff in that free box. Really good stuff. Last week, a freaking massager. A massager was in there. Okay, it was like a $30 massager. Nothing super fancy, but it was free. It was free. So it sold within a week and I paid nothing for it. I found electronics in there. I think there was an iPod one time. Um, Gosh, there's definitely a lot of times that I've found free items. Um, let's see. All right, let's check back with our comments here. Let's see. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, parting it out is definitely a huge, huge thing because another example that came to mind was this a beer keg. So I picked up this beer keg and it was probably like 20, $30 at a yard sale, and it had all these little hoses to it. I had no idea what this was. So I paid the $20 or whatever. I think it was like $20. Huge beer keg dispenser thing. And I start looking up what these hoses were worth. I think they sold, okay, this is probably like 3 years ago. So really testing my memory, but I want to say they sold for like $50 a hose. Like it was insane how much these hoses sold for. So yeah, parting it out is absolutely next level. Okay. So that brings me to my next common question I get is your best and your worst flip or buy. So my best, I put that beer keg one in there just because it was one that I like a cash cow. It just kept paying. Another really good flip, I guess dollar wise, was a water ionizer. Never ever would I have looked twice at this water ionizer, but it was weird. So put this back under your tips. If it looks weird, look it up. Because when something is, you're like, what in the world is that? Chances are other people are looking for it because I have no idea what it was. It's also usually worth more because it's rare and harder to find. All right, so this water ionizer, it was basically like a water pitcher, and you put your water in it and it ionizes. Okay, I'm not a pro, but it sold, I forget what I paid for it, but it sold for over oh gosh, it was over $1,000. This water ionizer sold for. Yeah, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy. He got it, and I remember he complained that the filter was dirty or something. I'm like, it's used. Yes, it's dirty. It's a used water filter. But I think I refunded him like $25 to buy a new filter. Like, but I still paid like $1,000 for this water filter. Um, let's see some other good ones. I've found a big, huge lot of Department 56. If you're not familiar with that, it's a collection of Christmas villages. And I live in southern Arizona, so there's a lot of estates and a lot of seniors that have collected these over the years. So I've been able to find some really big ticket ones for 10 to $20 and flip them for 100. So this was an estate sale at the end of the day. So everything was like 50% off, 70%, I think it was 70% off everything. And there was a whole table. And I just did one of those, give me the whole table. I'll buy the whole table. And they took a little while to sell. So at first, super intimidated. There was probably 100 pieces. And I went ahead and started listing some of them. Uh, I listed some of them separately, and then I listed them in lots. So I started boxing them up as like 4 or 5 of them together, put them up on Marketplace, put them up on eBay, and I sold a couple lots for like 300 or so, and then another set sold. I want to say that was locally as well, and it was actually to a veteran. She was saying that her daughter, who just came back or was in some other country, suffered from a lot of PTSD, and this was the one thing. Christmas was the one thing that brought her joy. So it was really just it felt good to sell it to someone that could really use it, or they really wanted it. So that one definitely goes down as one of the best. I'm gonna also say one of my best, fastest flips goes to these Garmin diesel GPSs. Those suckers sold within 24 hours and for several hundreds. Um, Same category as GPSs. There's these little handheld ones. Same story. They're also Garmin. So yeah, it was a Garmin diesel. Those are the truckers, and then these Garmin handheld ones. Same thing. They sell for several hundreds. I think I had one that was 300, one that was 400, a couple that are 200. Those sell so fast, and I love them. So those are my best. My worst comes down to an experience. I had purchased this Disney lamp. So this lamp, she was a big What's the character's name? Not Kermit. What's the Disney? I think he's green. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Okay, so anyways, she's a big fan of this one character from Disney. Kermit's a Muppet. It's not Kermit. Help me out in the chat, because I'm going blank. No, it's not Kermit. Who's the other Disney green guy? All right, all right, all right. So, anyways, big, huge fan of this guy. And this lamp was one of 300, one of 500. She bought it at the park and paid like 50 bucks for it. So I looked it up and it was a serious collector's item. So it sold for over $800. It took a while. I sat on it for quite a few months, but it did finally sell to the perfect buyer. That's all you need, one buyer. And because of my hi baby, because of my inexperience, I did not package this well enough. Hindsight, I should have paid a company to package it. I should have paid a company. Thank you, baby. So I paid a company to. That's how you know this is live. My kids are here climbing on my table. So I should have paid a company to package it for me. I bubble wrapped the ever living stuff out of it. Um, the guy gets it and he shows me a picture. It's in pieces. My heart shattered because he was so excited to get it. He was also a huge collector of this character. I can't think of the name. And definitely was it the Three Musketeers? Three something. Oh my goodness. It's gonna bug me what the name of this character was. Um so they messaged me and it was in a million pieces and I tried to fight FedEx saying that they broke it. Like it was packaged. I thought it was packaged well and apparently it wasn't. So FedEx denied the claim and I was out. So I ended up having to refund the guy the full 800 bucks. In the end, while it seems like I was out the 800, I was only out the 50 for the item and then the initial 30 bucks or so that it paid to ship it out. So definitely disappointing. So my advice on that is if you're not comfortable shipping it, don't buy it. It's not worth it. No matter how much. I should have done it local. Um, there's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but my biggest lesson is if I'm not comfortable shipping it, just don't buy it. And that's why I don't do a lot of fragile items. When I do, it's super small little trinkets. And even those are rare. I had some Boston heads that I sold. Um, I'll do mugs all day. I love packing mugs. Like that is my jam. I love packing mugs. I've got it down to a science. I just sold 2 La Crusette mugs last week. Already got feedback saying amazing packing. So I love packing mugs. Those don't intimidate me. It's those intricate little pockets. Uh, I just shipped out a cuckoo clock about a week ago. I haven't heard from them, so I'm guessing that's made it safe. But luckily that's wood, so less fragile than a glass lamp shade. Yeah, it was like a stained glass lampshade. Oh, I think it was gorgeous. Should have just kept it. So, anyways, yeah, my biggest lesson is if you're not comfortable shipping it, don't buy it. All right, what else can we answer? Anybody else in the comments? Jerry, hi to your babies. You could probably hear them still in the background. They are not so quiet. And as this gets earlier, because Arizona, we don't change time, but the rest of you change time. So therefore, we change time zones. So as this is currently 7:30 here in Arizona, or almost 7:30, once time changes in, was it next weekend? Either next, yeah, I think it's next weekend, maybe 2 weeks. We'll be going over to Pacific time. So then it's going to be an hour earlier. So those kiddos might be a little bit noisier. We'll see. They're getting tired now, so they're kind of winding down. All right, let's see what else we got. So the other famous question is my favorite niche or my favorite thing to sell and one I wish I knew more about. So favorite, as you can tell, was electronics. The reasons it's my favorite is because it's easy to look up. 99% of electronics have a model number. So it's so easy to type in what that model number is and see what it's worth. I also love electronics because it's fun to test. I had to test. I picked up three Wii's last week. It was fun to test. I love testing them. There was a couple Guitar Hero guitars. My husband loves to rock out and test those. So whenever there's an item that's fun, I enjoy listing it. Cameras, I just love tinkering with them. So yeah, there's more work because you want to make sure that you're testing it, but I enjoy it. So VCR combo players, I'm always testing those, and I just throw in an old Disney cassette or Disney VHS tape and make sure it plays. My favorite right now is what have I been putting in there? It's a dragon, Pete's Dragon. That's been the VHS. That's been my testing one. I lost Toy Story. That was the last one that bit the dust. I put it into a VCR and it ate it. So Toy Story to the garbage. But if you don't have VHS tapes to use to test it, pick one up. They're super cheap at Goodwill or any thrift store. So I always have a few on hand. So that's my favorite. One I wish I knew more about goes under sporting goods. So I'm getting to know more. I'm getting to know more about golf clubs. I'm getting to know more about um, mainly golf. That's kind of where I've focused more of my learning. But I've also, today, I actually just picked up a pickleball racket. I know nothing about pickleball other than they need a racket. So I know a little bit about tennis. My husband played tennis, and my mother-in-law plays tennis. So I know a little bit about tennis and the types of rackets. Um, but pickleball is a new one. So I need to learn some of the brands to watch for on pickleball rackets. She actually had three of them, and I was able to just look all three up and pick the one that was worth the most. So that's the best way to look up new items. When you filter by sold, you can also sort by most expensive. So when you type in golf clubs, go to sort or go to sold, sort it by the most expensive, and you'll find out the ones Callaway, Titleist, Nike. You'll see the brands that you want to watch for. So whenever you pick a new niche, that's the best way to find out the most profitable. Women's clothing, that's another one that I wish I knew more about. So I'm a bargain shopper, so I know the brands that are at Walmart, JCPenney's, Target. I don't know the designer brands. So I'm getting to know some of them, like Rothy's shoes, but I think that's about the extent. I'll spend time when I'm at a thrift and I haven't found anything. I'll spend time going down some of the denim and looking up some of the jean brands. Um, but I'm not a huge fan of selling ladies' clothes anyway. If I had to choose, I'd choose men's clothes. Men do a lot more efficient shopping, men do a lot less returns, and men ask a lot less questions when it comes to their clothing. Women always ask a million questions and then never buy. I love that. Oh, what's the length of the arm? I need the width of the armpit. I need from, oh my gosh, the random questions. And then crickets, they don't even buy the item. Oh my goodness, that was a waste. So, yes, clothing probably goes under another one because I think that's one that's a lot easier to grow with because the inventory is smaller. So you can have 50 pieces of clothing in one box. I can't fit 50 pieces of electronics or 50 pieces of hard goods into a box. So it takes up a lot more space. All right, let's get back to comments. All right, let's see. Pickleball. Yep, you would fit right in, sis. You would fit right in. All right. How do you know what drivers to get? Nikki asked. Um, I stick with those three brands that I mentioned. So with drivers and woods and hybrids can sometimes look very similar. So the driver is going to be your biggest one. Titleist, Callaway, Nike. Nail those three brands into your brain. Anytime you see them, look them up. So golf clubs are actually really easy to look up. They're always going to have some kind of number with it. So when you're typing in the size, the whether it's a graphite shaft, that makes a huge difference. The graphite shaft will always be worth more than a steel shaft. Make sure the grip is clean, that it doesn't have holes. I mean, they can re-grip it, yes, but I personally want to make sure I'm picking out quality. Um, Babe, can you go grab me one of my drivers? Go grab me a driver real
I'll see
quick,
uh,
and I'll show you kind of some of the numbers to type in when you're looking those up. Nike, fun fact, they no longer make golf. So because Nike doesn't make golf anymore, their items are worth a lot more. So I was actually able to pick up a set of Nike irons, and those were worth like $150. Dude.
I don't think this close to him.
Playing peekaboo. All right, let me see this driver.
I think it's the driver. Yeah.
Okay. So
Head cover. That's
if it has a head cover, even better. Okay, so this one's a Callaway.
yeah, it says FT5.
Are you done?
No.
Okay. So the other thing that you want to look for when you're looking at a driver is that it's not dented. If they're amateur, it will be dented. So make sure it's not dented. If it's dirty, they're super easy to clean. I love Dawn Power Wash. It does wonders. So this one is an FT5. That's going to mirror the image, but it's called an FT5 Callaway. I would then type in that it's a 9. I think it's a draw. 9 draw. Okay, don't quote me on that, but I'll put that in. And then it's a graphite shaft, so anything that's not silver. This one is happens to be green. And it's an R shaft, so I would put that in there. That's a regular shaft. You have S, which is stiff, A, which is senior, and then R, which is regular. And then I feel like there's another one, but once you just start typing in some of these numbers that are printed on here, you'll be able to locate what those drivers are. But those are the three brands: Callaway, Titleist, Nike. Um, there's so many brands of them. There's Adams, that's not worth anything. Wilson, not worth anything. Um, what are some common ones that I see? I see so many junk clubs out there. Like there's a lot of them. So the three biggest brands are going to always be worth the most. And if you find a head cover,
How light it feels too as it
how
goes.
light it feels. That goes into tennis too. When you pick up a tennis racket, you want to make sure that it's light. Pickleball, that didn't make a difference. My rackets, all three of those felt the same. But thank you so much for the question. Danae, thank you so much for joining. All right, let's see if I had any other questions lined up here. All right, I do. My favorite sourcing style. So this one kind of, I wanted to narrow in how I source my goods. And my favorite way to source, number one, is estate sales. Number one. Um, Luckily we have, well, I guess not lucky for them, we have a lot of estate sales. They don't always mean that the person has passed. Yes, that is statistically a big portion. But here it's also because a lot of people go into assisted living. So
Like your iPod store, get the know these people.
right. So they estate sales, I just love them. I love the rush. I love the different stuff. As you do this more, and depending on the size of your city, I live in a small town, and I know all the different estate companies that sell down here, that sell down here. There's probably a handful of churches that do it. There's an animal league that does it. Um, there's a retirement facility that does it. Um, it makes sense. If you're moving into that retirement home, they offer you an estate sale to help you sell your stuff so you can move into their $1 million assisted living. And then there's your smaller companies. Those are the ones that are usually run by a handful of people. And then you've got the big companies. So the big companies are your ones that have a team of like 15 people. They'll take on hoarder houses like it's nobody's business. And their prices are super high. I know exactly who those bigger companies are, and I avoid them. If they're in my area, which occasionally they will come up here or come down here, it'll be the last one on my list. So I'll map out all my estate sales for the day, and if I know there's one of the big companies, it's just my last stop. Like I've got nothing to lose. I'm not racing between all the different sales. Um, I'll just go check out what they have left. And sometimes if you go later in the day or second day, it's half off, which makes the prices a little more reasonable, but they just always ask way too much. The smaller estate sales, what I love is to get to know them. And the more you go, that they know you. Like I went to one the other day. like, oh, where's your kids at? I'm like, oh, I got to drop them off at school first, and then I came because sometimes the littlest one, depending where the sale is in my route, I'll take him with before I drop him off at daycare. If it's on my way to his school, I'm not going to turn around and go back, so I'll bring him with. And he always gets so many compliments. It's adorable because they don't see a lot of little people, so it's always fun to bring him to those sales. So, and everyone's super nice. And as you're building these relationships, they know what you do. There's no reason to hide what you do. I resell. That's what I do. So, no, I don't blurt it out and like announce it when I'm walking into these sales. But over time, they get to know what you do. And then they'll even ask you, like, oh, how much is this worth? How much is this worth? And I'm starting to build these relationships. So, there's one estate company that um, they actually let me come see their stuff early. Like, how amazing is that? So that is amazing. And then there's another local estate that she asked me to help her start pricing some of her sales. She doesn't get very many of them. It's one of her many, many jobs as estate sales and realtor and all million hats. So she asked me to start helping her do some pricing. And with that, I'm one of the first people in that house. So I get to see and have first dibs. Um, Another estate sale company when I'm there later in the day. Like I never get to this particular one first because usually the prices are inflated. But when I do get there, they make deals on the stuff that they have where they wouldn't normally make a deal if I was just an average visitor. So not that they play favorites, but I think they do give special treatment to their frequent shoppers. So estate sales is definitely my favorite. Um, very close second goes to church sales. Those are my jam. So it kind of goes intertwined because the churches run a lot of estate sales. So those are always my first run. When I, again, with that list of sales, the first ones I will go to is a church sale. And the second one is going to be those private sales. Um, so the church sales are great because it's a lot of stuff in one time. There's actually one today. So I'll have a video out tomorrow of all the things that I grabbed today at this church sale. It was amazing. It's amazing. It's such a rush when you can find some good stuff and help a good cause and find good stuff. Then of course you've got your garage sales. Those are great, but it's hit and miss because you've got a lot of people that think their stuff is worth a lot. There was one sale today. He wanted $300 for $100 camera. Um, like there's people that put way too much value, but then you can find people that undervalue. So the minute I walk up to a sale and I see eBay price or how much it was new, I turn around and leave. Like it's not even worth my time. Thrift stores, of course, they have a range of their favorites, of my favorites of theirs. Goodwill is at the very for many reasons. Goodwill's at the bottom. Their pricing has just, it's become ridiculous. Like used shoes now, if it's a Nike or a New Balance or Reebok or, I mean, it doesn't even mean that it's a value because you can find Nikes for $10. Like just because the brand doesn't mean that that's the value, but they put $25 on all of them, 24.99. Like that was used. Like used shoes you want $25 for that you got for free. So they're definitely at the bottom, but unfortunately, they're close and convenient. So I still hit them up because I'll occasionally find those random ones they don't know and still find some scores. Um, but with all of these, with all the thrift stores, all the estate sales, the biggest thing is to be consistent and to keep going. Because while one garage sale may bomb, the next two might be good. One thrift store might bomb, the next two might be good. Or they might all bomb that day. That's the case. I just put out a video today. I went out yesterday to 5 thrift stores. One of them, I actually bought something. I only bought 2 things there. All the others, duds. So that's not going to stop me. I went today to my local thrift store and filled up an entire IKEA bag. So it's just consistency. The more you go, the better your odds of finding good stuff. All right, let's see if we got any other comments. Oh, Jerry, you're funny. Okay, so all right. If you guys have any other questions, I'll give this just a couple more minutes. But I have guests starting to line up. Next week, I've got Marjorie with her name is long. I think it's homeschooling. It's not the homeschooling picker. She has a longer name than that. Okay. Stay at home homeschooling mom. Okay, I'm gonna totally butcher it. But I have her next week, Marjorie, and I'm so excited to have her on. And then I've got Attic Addicts. She's coming on the show, and a few others. So I'm excited to start bringing some guests on here. Do you want your moment of fame, Lincoln? Come here, my chocolate face.
He's shirtless.
Boy. All right, everybody. This is one dude who had chocolate to keep him quiet. You say hi. All right, guys. Oh, we've got another guest. All right. Liberty, you want to come poke over? All right. So these are my world. And the reason I am a mom who resells.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I had so much fun. And I will see you guys next week, same place, same time, and have a wonderful weekend. Yeah. Everyone say bye. Bye.